Every collector is chasing expensive Pokemon cards, but to be fair, the real value in Pokemon cards are the ones that are under $30. And that's why in this video, I want to uncover the 7 Pokemon cards currently $30 or less, and that also have a bit of a chance to grow in price. I feel cards at around that 30 USD mark are usually in a pretty sweet spot because they're still within reach for a lot of people, but also then you have a big market of collectors who just avoid them entirely. The reality is a card that's 25 or 30 bucks isn't really considered that cheap anymore, but also for collectors who prefer their more higher end chase cards, they don't really consider it a card that has high chances to appreciate either. So it's in this awkward middle zone. So that price range of $20, $25, $30, it becomes a very awkward middle ground as, like I said, they're not dirt cheap and they're also nothing really too special either. So that's why for number 7 on this list, it is the Articuno from Journey Together. Man, for such an iconic Pokemon with a crazy ice-inspired theme, it's honestly wild to see the prices haven't gone too much up for this card in particular. Though honestly, I think a lot of that has to do to the fact that Journey Together has some pretty welcoming pull rates, and that was much needed after Prismatic Evolutions. Though looking here, and I'm on the year graph for the Articuno, so you can really see the journey this card's had. And firstly, I just want to show you what the card's selling for right now. This card is priced at 20 USD, which I think is a pretty reasonable price for the artwork is so good. I've always felt this card is definitely underrated. We can see that it had a market high in the last year for $24, actually, right around when Journey Together kind of was in its early stages, 27. Though right now it's sitting pretty comfortably at 20 bucks. Now, the thing about cards at this price range, like I said, that isn't in, no one's really thinking it's gonna have some massive spike, and it probably won't. The cool thing to say about this Pokemon card in particular is that I think the artwork is super unique. Though really at $20, it's definitely one that is a pretty cool card to add to your collection, and definitely it has room to grow, though it just depends. Journey Together as a set has been a little bit of a, when it released, okay, after Prismatic Evolutions, a lot of people were like, oh, they were excited, and they kind of dropped it, especially afterwards, how you had so much quality release. But I really do think hindsight will be super kind to Journey Together. We're gonna have to see how it plays out, but right now I really do think it's an incredible set that is a little bit underappreciated. Now, moving on to the next spot, it is the Trainer Gallery Charizard from Lost Origin. Now, anything Charizard is just always hyped, though given the price point, I actually think this isn't too bad at all because, like I said, when you're dealing with a Charizard, anything under that $50 range is pretty good. Honestly, when I look at this card, it actually brings me so much nostalgia, especially from playing Sword and Shield games. Seeing Leon and his love for Zard, I don't know. I just really feel kids will be so nostalgic for that era of Pokemon games and collecting. And just looking at this card, to me, it has that future gem vibes about it. I personally really love it. Though we can see right now that the card is selling for $28. So definitely not, like I said, it's nothing of that $80, $90 range. It's actually pretty within reach for a lot of collectors. If you do look in the last 3 months, it has gone up through a little bit of a climb. It was selling for 17. And if I pull it into the year graph, you can see that the card has had some slow and steady growth over the year. There was a point where this card was selling for 10 bucks, which definitely was in that undervalued category. There you go, from $10, $28, pretty much a 3 times increase, which is definitely good. But I do think, given how expensive Lost Origin booster boxes have become, I really think this is at that sweet spot. That $30 range, like I said, there is so much to work with there. I really think that it's a pretty cool card to add to any collection. Now, moving on to the next card on this list, it is the Mew EX 151 Metal card. Now, just so you're aware, there's actually 2 versions of this card. There's the Hyper Rare Mew, which can be pulled from any Pokemon 151 pack, and then there's also this version, which is actually a Metal card. Now, the unique thing about this card in particular is that the Metal card is only available within the Pokemon 151 Ultra Premium collection as a promo. And I do think there's some decent future growth here, especially seeing that the 151 UPC is going through some massive price movements at the moment. Though another thing to consider is that metal cards haven't really been that much in demand either, but there is a market for them. Though right now we're looking at this card, it's selling for $27. If we go back throughout the year, you can see it's pretty much had some pretty solid growth over the whole year. Was selling for $8 last year. So that was a bit of a low point for this card. Though, like I said, right now selling for just under $30, which I think is a pretty good price for this card, especially when you look at the prices of the 151 UPC. I'm just looking at the 151 Ultra Premium collection, and right here you can see it is selling for $904. which is massive. Massive prices for that UPC. And what you can pull with it, you've obviously got the Mew SIR, you've got the Mewtwo illustration rare, and you've got this metal promo that's within the box. Honestly, when I look at that, I do think this card's probably a little bit undervalued in comparison to the price of the UPC, though of course it also depends on what the market really prefers as well. Now onto the next spot. It is the Iono special illustration rare from Paldean Fates. So Paldean Fates has a little bit of an interesting thing that's happened to it because the SIR roster of Paldean Fates is insane. You've got the shiny Gardevoir, which is absolutely beautiful. You've got the SIR Charizard, and of course you've got Bubble Mew. And Iono, for some reason, just took a little bit of a backseat in comparison to these other special illustration rares. Moving on here, we can see the Iono selling for $27. Now, here's the thing about why this is a pretty unique card, okay? When Paldean Fates was about to come out, a lot of people were hyping the Iono that it was going to be one of the most expensive cards. It's crazy to think that now, right? Because it was there was Bubble Mew, there was Charizard, there was the Gardevoir, there was so many other cool cards. The reason why a lot of people thought very high things for this Iono in particular is because during 2023 there was a big Japanese female trainer card boom and a big female trainer card hype phase, okay? And that caused a lot of the Japanese female trainer cards to spike in price. And then for some reason, also the English female trainer cards also spiked in price. And it was just at an awkward period where everyone thought that this card would also be a massive, massive top chase card. And you also have to remember that with Paldea Evolved, one of the top chase cards to start out was the Iono special illustration rare. Right now it's selling for $27. If we look in the last year, we can see that it did have a market high for $37. So whether you're buying a card for $30, $37, to be honest, it's so hard to play that game if you wanted the cheapest. Right now, actually, I think this is pretty close to a yearly low. We can see the yearly low was 25. Right now, selling for 27. Thing is, though, you're never gonna, I wouldn't really worry about trying to buy a card for $5 or $10 cheaper in the market. It is very hard to predict that. Usually, like, it also depends on what's trending. If female trainer cards become trending again, then you best believe it. This Iono, the Miriam SIR, the Iono as well from Paldea Evolved, they would all climb in price. It just depends on what's happening in the market at any given point. Also, I just wanted to say, if it is your first time on the channel, welcome. My name's Phil and I create content around Pokemon cards and the general market. Feel free to subscribe for consistent content. It's always good seeing new people on board. Now, the next one on this list is the Steelix from Paradox Rift, and mind you, this is just such a cool artwork, but I think it's actually sitting at a pretty good price to pick it up right now. Just here on the Steelix, and we can see right now in the current market selling for $29. Right there, that is a $30 card. This is a really cool illustration rare from Paradox Rift. I think Paradox Rift has really been taken a backseat, especially those early Scarlet and Violet era sets. I've never seen more kind of sets be forgotten about with so much quality within them. So that's Paradox Rift, that's Temporal Forces, even Scarlet and Violet Base. These have such amazing cards in it. The illustration rares to the SIRs, they've got some real good quality, but the problem is, or whether or not it's a problem, the Scarlet and Violet era leveled so much up later in its generation that all these got forgotten about, right? So that is crazy to think about because this Steelix is a gorgeous artwork, $30. But even if I'm thinking like there's so many amazing illustration rares in Paradox Rift, you got the Veltol illustration rare, you got the Brute Bonnet, there's just so many cool cards in that set alone, and same with Scarlet and Violet Base. And actually the top pick of this list is from Scarlet and Violet Base, and I'll show you that in a second. Now the next on this list, it is the Iron Leaves special illustration rare from Temporal Forces. Now what's funny about this is Temporal Forces actually has some of the hardest pull rates in the Scarlet and Violet era, and to see an SIR for under $30 and the fact that it's an amazing illustration, that's pretty interesting. Right here, looking at the Iron Leaves, I love this artwork. I think it looks so cool. I love all the Temporal Forces special illustration rares. To me, they are such cool Pokemon cards. To me, it's so crazy to see that people, they just haven't got their respect. And I feel like they're such good at SIRs. Right now, this one's selling for $22. Honestly, on the year graph here, we can see that looks like it is at the lowest point it's been at the last year. If we pull this around this time last year, selling for $32. So not crazy price drop, but it's consistently just dropped very slowly over the course of the year. And right now it's sitting at a low point. I do think this SIR, along with all the other special illustration rares from Temporal Forces, they're really cool. And they just have that Generation 9 theme about them. Just, yeah, they're great little pickups as well, especially if you are a little bit more focused on your budget. These, your barrier to entry is a little bit higher, but again, they're not that unattainable, especially like those cards that we've seen, like your Charizard and Gengar and all the rest. Now, in the top spot, it goes to the Miraidon Special Illustration Rare from Scarlet and Violet base. Now, this is a box legendary as an SIR. It's a super unique artwork, and honestly, I think this one's super undervalued right now. I mean, just check this artwork out. It looks phenomenal. I really think this is good artwork, and definitely, like I said before, Paradox Rift, Scarlet and Violet base, Temporal Forces, they really have taken a back seat due to the quality that came later on in the era. And to be fair, all these SIRs and illustration rares, I personally think are great pickups because they have been so avoided by so much. Everyone just wanted Destined Rivals. Everyone wanted Black Bolt, White Flare. Moving on, especially Mega Evolution era. These are those moments in Pokemon collecting where a lot of people chase what's trending. I always like to just take a back seat and look what's a little bit quiet at the moment, and this one definitely is that. If I pull this into the year graph, you can see that it did have a high point for around $28, but it's always stayed consistent around that like $18 range to $30 range. Hasn't really gone too crazy, but right now selling for 26 bucks. I really think it's not too bad given the prices in the current market and given the fact that you do get a box legendary as a special illustration rare. I mean, the thing is, with this price range, it is a bit of a tricky area because, like I said, it does price out the real bargain hunters. But then again, all those collectors that are trying to get those those top chase cards aren't really buying cards in this area as well. Though there actually is a bit of an art to spotting undervalued cards before they climb in price. And if you'd like to know how to spot those cards, I do uncover that in this video here. Within this video on screen, I go into how to spot undervalued Pokemon cards in the market. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.